tissue up here. Hi, everybody. I'm Abby, and I'm an alcoholic. Thank you. I'll get these and not need them, but I have a feeling I'm going to. My sobriety date is August 1st, 2004, and my home group is Women in Sobriety in Salida, Colorado. And some of my homies are here, which is great. And my homie right here is awesome. Those were all really kind words, and I actually don't know what congruent means. So I'm like, I'm going to have to look. I think I have an idea, but you guys know how that goes when we have an idea about what the meaning of a word is, and then your sponsor's like, you should look up honesty, and you're like, oh, that's whatever. I feel like I want to just really quick run through and be like, okay, I turned 50 this year. I'm an only child. I have an only child. She's 28. I had her when I was 22. I would want to just run through the stuff that is not that it's important, but it's not, because I'm that person at a meeting that we have a 3-minute timer. And that 3-minute timer, by the time that I get to the 3 minutes, I finally have what I want to say. And so I could go and tell you a story about my daughter, and I could talk about turning 50, and I could talk about being an only child, and I could go through and I could just talk for a long time, I think. I just want to say I'm so grateful, and it is an honor and a privilege to be asked to do this. And just like Brad said, it is not my thing. This is just not ever been my thing. And, doing some area service stuff and having to get up to the microphone for 2 minutes, Sarah and I were about getting up for 2 minutes, I would lose it. I would be like, I'm going to pee my pants. I just would get ready to cry. And all I was doing is getting up and reading a report. So getting up to the microphone is just, it's not always been easy. And I also have a tendency to get up to the microphone and become a comedian and say bad words. And I'm not going to do that tonight because I'm not going to waste your time. At least I'm going to try not to. So it is an honor and a privilege to be here. I read something, I think it was a grapevine a couple of days ago, and it said something about, how we give freely of ourselves. And it occurred to me, I was like, I'm giving freely of myself. I'm going to do the best that I can to tell you guys the truth and tell you what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. And give freely. This is what we do, right? And when I get all caught up, I want, more than anything, the stuff that came up. I actually worked in inventory about this. Actually, I'll tell you guys the truth. I had to work a little 4-step on doing this and coming up because I so did not want to. And when I called my sponsor and said I got asked to speak at FOTS, and I don't want to, and I'm going to say no. I told him I would think about it, but I'm going to say no. And she was like, you're going to say yes, because that's what you do. You're going to put on a dress, and you're not going to say bad words. And but what I found in that is that inventory actually was really good timing. I learned a lot about myself. I learned that I really want you guys to like me. And I always thought, the people-pleasing thing, and I think people-pleasing it's interesting because, it was pointed out that it's kind of manipulative because I want you guys to like me so that I can feel better about myself. It's just all about me. It's not actually about making you all happy. No, it's actually, if you guys are all happy, then I'm going to be happy. And I'm the one that really matters, right? And that's pretty messed up. And so what I know is that going through this inventory, I forgot to bring up my book. Hold on. What I learned was that, you guys are kind of intimidating. Like, thoughts, you guys are kind of intimidating. And it feels a little bit, sometimes like when I've been here in the past, and I've been coming for a few years, and I feel like it's a little bit like I want to be a part of you guys. You know, like I want to be cool and like get up here and be like, on page 64, it says, and like have it memorized and like be able to just like, and you guys all be like, oh, she should be a circuit speaker. Or whatever, like, and that's the last thing, by the way, that I ever want to do. In fact, I hope I bomb tonight so that no one will ask me to speak ever again. So there's that. But, you know, like, that thing about, like, I want to say all the right things, and I want you guys to think that I'm cool, and I want you guys to think that I'm smart, even though I don't know what congruent means. I want you guys to think that I got it going on, and that, you know, I'm a girl with a message. You know, like, I want you guys to think that. And I'm doing the best I can, right? And I'm just showing up, and tonight I'm going to try to tell you guys the truth. I have somebody that I drank with when I was 16, 17, 18, 20, 21, 22, 27, 28, and he's here tonight. And so I can't really tell that many stories and embellish anything from that part of my life anyway, because he's here. So I'm going to tell the truth. But so like I said, I'm an only child. I was born in Colorado. I was born in Salida, where I actually live now, but I didn't grow up there. I grew up in Georgetown, which is another really small town on Interstate 70. For those of you that aren't from here, it's in the mountains. And you know, I had a pretty, you know, today Myra talked about, and I don't know if she's here right now, but I loved what she shared earlier when she shared on step 2. She was talking about how she didn't feel safe at home, you know, and so she had to like get everything situated to feel okay. And I had the opposite. I felt really safe at home, and I did not feel good when I left. Like when I went out in the world, starting in kindergarten, it just, school was awful. I got bullied really bad. I lived in a small mountain town, and my dad was a lot of these kids' boss, and that sucked. Can I say sucked? Is that okay? Okay. And so I think, like, I didn't feel safe. Like, being out in the world, like, I learned how at an early age to chameleon myself and make myself, you know, fit in, you know, and however you wanted me to be. I'm also a Gemini, in case anybody's in astrology. And Geminis are chameleons. Like, we can be anybody you want us to be, and also stab you in the back, and also love you at the same time. But I feel like, you know, that's some of these old ideas that I'm stuck with. And that piece that came up for me in this inventory about all these old ideas and old beliefs that I actually, and I'm going to get there, but I have a newer sponsor, and I've just started working with her, I think November or December. And then Brad asked me in December, and she said, if he would have asked me a month before, I would have been like, no, sorry, I can't. And no one would have said, no, you have to. But I started working with her, and she, what was I going to say about that? Oh, great. Yeah. I'm also on East Coast time. I just got home from a vacation, and I went to bed at 8 o'clock East Coast time. And so it's like, what is it? Like, it's midnight now or something. So I apologize if I'm a little bit short, but something about Tracy was my sponsor. Yeah, I lost it. I apologize. Okay, so I think going through the inventory, those old beliefs, that's what it was. I literally was like, where's that? I don't remember that in the big book. Why am I writing about old beliefs and old ideas? Like, where is that? And it's in here. It's in here very clearly. It talks about some of us have tried to hold on to our old ideas. And the result was nil until we let go. Absolutely. It's there. And it's in a few other places. And I'm holding on to that old belief that if you guys all agree with me, then I'm okay. And if I'm funny and you guys are laughing at me, then I'm okay. And if you think I'm cute, then I'm okay. And that's some rough stuff, because the truth is that's not normal. I don't really actually need you guys to like me. And I've learned that through being in the rooms. I've learned that from the work that I've done, that I can be just who I am and stand on my own 2 feet. So let me go back. So, growing up in the small town, kind of getting bullied, I definitely got picked on by boys. Awful. And I hate that when people say, well, it's just because they like you. And that's not true. Boys are just mean. And girls actually are worse, so I just stayed completely away from them and just hung out with boys because that was a little bit safer. And also you can manipulate boys. So you can kiss them and make out with them and stuff like that, and they'll eventually be like, oh, she's cool. Yeah. And so, finding my people, the first time that I drank, I was 12. I was at a wedding with my parents, and it was kind of a nice wedding. It was a small wedding. It was nice. And I got completely wasted, out of my mind. My parents always let me kind of have alcohol, it was around. And my dad drinking, watching Bronco games, or wine punch on the 4th of July, and eggnog at Christmas, or whatever. And I was allowed to drink a little bit. And I didn't ever really get drunk. I liked it, though. And I knew that when I grew up, I wanted to drink. I wanted to, have cocktails after work with my friends and weird stuff like that. I've never done that. I, went straight to drinking. And not after work and with my girlfriends. I didn't have girlfriends. And so, the first time that I drank, I had that feeling that you guys all know about, that feeling oh my gosh, I'm okay. I'm going to be okay. This is all right. You guys are all okay. I feel comfortable in my skin. We're good. This is great. And I'm going to do that again. And of course I did. I did it as soon as I could. The very next chance that I could have the opportunity to drink, I did. And it was whatever it was, cream de mint or whatever, aquavit at my Norwegian friend's house or whatever. And that just set the ball rolling. And pretty much I can just tell you that it was messy. My story is not dark and dangerous. No, let me say that. Let me rephrase that completely. It was totally dark and dangerous, but it wasn't. I don't have a whole bunch of things. I did not go to jail. I didn't go to prison. I got arrested for mailbox baseball, with Murph. I'm also a white girl that got away with it, which is bad. That's ridiculous. But I got away with some stuff that I should have gone to jail. And so all of those things, I ended up getting pregnant early. I have a lovely daughter. She's 28, and she is a lovely human. She's a total badass, and I'm so proud of her. And I'm grateful that, she's 28. She's alive. So far, I don't think she's one of us, but we'll see what happens. I think she's more on the other team in a big way. And I think she knows how to find that. She knows where to find you guys, She has Sue's phone number in her phone, I think, actually. Yep. Go Sue. So, everything just started to get kind of I love not being able to tell how it talks about in the big book, how we can't tell true from false. I lost that. I just couldn't. And the whole idea and the thinking that I had going on in my head was all distorted, that all of that craziness and the insanity, that is the insanity of my alcoholism, is that thinking, that if only I was better, different, however that phrase is, like if I could just be just right, like I'll be okay. And if I drink this, I'm going to be okay. And if I, whatever, and inevitably I would never know what was going to happen when I drank. And as like I got to be in my late 20s, I ended up meeting somebody who was lovely, and people were definitely starting to go, my mom was starting to get a little worried. I was having moments of clarity where I could see my daughter. We had moved to Salida. I was living in Breckenridge, and Breckenridge definitely brought me to my knees. I had other substances involved in that, and it just was starting to get so that I couldn't not drink, and I was drinking all the time, and I was doing secretly. I was taking my daughter to school and running home because we lived a block away from the elementary school, and getting it on, and then picking her up at 2:30 or 3 o'clock, completely wasted, and coming home and then acting like everything was okay. I always thought that I wasn't a blackout drinker until I started looking at some pictures with one of my girlfriends. It's the thinking thing, that here I thought all along, well, I'm not a blackout drinker, so I'm okay. And literally went through a whole photo album and I was like, who is that? Why? Where are we? Who is that? Whose car is that? I couldn't, there was no recollection of any of these people. And so I had little moments of clarity where I was like, okay. And so I met this really nice man, and because I'm skipping that whole thing, but that was a big thing. That was a big thing for me. I really needed a man to adore me. I wanted somebody to love me, and if you messed with me, if you did something, if you cheated on me, you were gonna get it. I had to make amends to a boyfriend for being physically abusive to him, swinging my ski pole over my head, and knocking him around and stuff. I was that girl. And he also, when I made amends to him, was like, well, I'm glad that you apologized for being violent, but I really would appreciate an apology about cheating. And I was like, oh, did I cheat on you? And I have to come, I did what my sponsor said. I said, let me get back to you on that. And then I ran and I went home and called people and was like, did I cheat on John? And they were all like, yeah, are you kidding? My guy friends got honest with me and were like, yeah, and we'll tell you exactly with who and when. And I was like, whoa. No, did not. Because again, my thinking, I'm distorted. I think that everything is okay. I think that, I'm all right. I'm doing fine. Look at me. I'm not a cheater. I'm not a blackout drinker or whatever. So this lovely man that I met, he started to notice when we would go out in Salida, I started having things where I would ask him, could you come and walk me home? Because I don't want to go over to the Vic, which was the tavern, the dirty bar. And I would just close it down. I would leave work and then go there. And so he would come and walk me home so I wouldn't go there, and then I would just drink a little bit at home instead of going to the bar. And part of the reason why we weren't going to the bar is because when we were at the bar, I would end up getting into fights. Not physical fights, all mouth. All the stuff that was coming out of here with men. Big dudes. And people that I would point at them across the room and be like, you bleep and bleep. The real bad words. And be like, I don't like your girlfriend. I don't like your shoes. I think you're stupid. Or whatever, and would pick fights. And my lovely man that I was involved with would be like, I'm not going to fight that guy. I'm not a fighter. He's like, I'm a pacifist. That's what he used to say. I'm a pacifist, Abby. I'm not a fighter. And I'd be like, whatever. And we would fight, and it would just always turn out not good. And so I started having those ultimatums. My mom, I can see people falling asleep in here right now, you guys. That makes me really nervous, like you might not like me. Wake up. Okay, so, sorry. Brock wanted it. You got it. There it is. Okay. Now I just got a hot flash. Oh no. Oh no. Okay. So I got the ultimatums. My mom was worried. My kid was a nervous wreck. She was like this little neurotic kid that licked her lips too much. And I couldn't read a bedtime story to her without, like, I would lose my place in, like, go dog go. You know what I mean? That we were like, I had memorized, and I couldn't read her a book. And that's for real. Like, that's the truth. And so I had, like, all these little flashes of, like, moments of clarity where I was like, uh-oh. I could tell by the way somebody was looking at me that it was maybe not so good. And seeing my daughter, I was like, something's not right. This is not good. And then I had the ultimatum from this lovely man. He was like, I'm tired of fighting your fights. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. And I was like, okay. And so I just so happened to work for these two lovely people that I know that somebody from Santa Fe knows them. And they absolutely saved my life. They were like the first of many of you that have saved my life in the rooms. And I just so happened to say something. I asked her why don't you drink? And she said, why do you ask? And I was like, well, because and I just told her. Something came out of me. I remember exactly where I was in the car. I was her nanny. I was working for her, nannying her twins, and I could not get through the day when I was working for her without I was just waiting till 4:30 that I could go to the liquor store and be done until they were coming up the driveway, and I'd be like, oh, bye, and then zip to the liquor store because I couldn't go. And on the days that I didn't have them, I just drank all day. And so she introduced me to Alcoholics Anonymous. Slowly, she said, I don't think you're going to be able to stay sober in Salida. There's no way. And she said, I got sober in New York City, and she's like, you're going to have to move. You're not going to be able to get sober here. Because there were like 3 meetings a week. And one of them was a men's meeting. It was like Sunday night, Wednesday, and the men's meeting. And so, I ended up, what I did is I went to Phoenix. I stayed with somebody that was a friend of my mom's who had worked at the Meadows. And I just stayed with her to detox. And it was a cheaper way of doing it instead of going to the Meadows or, Harmony or whatever. So I stayed with her, and I detoxed there. And I went to one of my first meetings, and it was in downtown Phoenix. And it was at this place that, I walked in and I was like, oh, like this is like some serious. I mean, it was like, pee-pee smell, like drunk, really, really drunk people. And like, I live in Salida. Like, I'm not a city girl. I grew up at 9,000 feet. Like, I was like wearing Patagonia. That's what I always say. I'm wearing Patagonia. I don't think I belong here. Like, this is... And it's the truth. Like, I was scared. I was terrified. And this guy got up who had tattoos all over his face, and he was taking a year chip, and he talked about the inside. He talked about all the stuff on the inside, and I heard him and was like, oh, yeah, this is the right thing. He said, he talked about his kids and not being able to show up for his kids. He talked about not being able to be a husband or a partner to anybody. He talked about, and how Alcoholics Anonymous, from working the steps, had changed his life. And so, gratefully, I came home from that, and I went to some meetings, and I dibble-dabbled in some meetings, and I stayed sober. I didn't drink. And we didn't have that many meetings. And so I could have gone to BV. I think there was maybe a meeting in BV, but it was seriously not the same Salida that it is today. We have a meeting at least 2 meetings every single day in Salida, and then Buena Vista, you can go to a bunch of meetings there, and so I ended up dibble-dabbling. And I remember I was a couple years sober, I hadn't drank, and I hadn't worked any of the steps. I had a sponsor that was kind of, and she sort of would show up, but she was obsessed with her boyfriend and would like practically sit on his lap during the meeting, and she was kind of like, oh, whatever. Yep, first step, you're good. Second step, you're good. And I'd be like, oh, okay, this is how it's supposed to be. And I didn't know any better, and that's the thing. Like, people come in the rooms, and they don't know any better. Like, if they're going to a meeting and everybody's talking about how terrible their life is and the problems that they're having, they have no idea what Alcoholics Anonymous is. And so I was at a meeting, and this biker came in, and he had been around. He was real old. Well, he wasn't old yet. He wasn't real old. He was still scary. And he was covered in tattoos and came in and was like, had a mustache that came all the way down to here that was like curly. And this man was the second person that saved my life in AA, because he told me the truth. He held up the big book and was like, I had a share that was a really long share, and it was about how terrible everything was and how miserable I was and how everything sucked, and oh, yeah, and then it had nothing to do with Alcoholics Anonymous, it had nothing to do with alcoholism. It was all just wah stuff. And he held the big book up, and he was like, he said, when it doesn't come through this filter, and he said some bad words that I'm not going to say, but he like let me have it at the meeting. I was like, I don't care what you have to say. I don't give a what you have to say. And I was like, oh. And then he went through and he talked about his program, and he said, this is what I do every morning. I get up in the morning, and I get on my knees, and I ask God to keep me sober for 24 hours. And at the end of the day, and I read it 2 pages out of the big book every single day. And he went on and did that, and I called my sponsor and told his story, and I was like, well, I want that. Like, who's doing that? Let me tell you, there were no women doing that in Salida. That was not happening. And so I hung around. Maybe there were some people that had some stuff that actually I did get a sponsor, and she did keep me sober. She taught me how to show up and be a wife. She taught me how to be a mom, but she didn't have this. She had some good things that were really helpful, and I didn't drink, and I stayed sober. And then this woman came into town, and she talked like this guy Larry did. And I was like, and she had just moved from Westminster, and I was like, I want that. That's what I want. And I asked her to be my sponsor, and she spoon-fed me the program of Alcoholics Anonymous. And, I had been sober. I hadn't drank. I also changed my sobriety date from 2002 to 2004 because I wasn't drinking, but I was eating weed. I was, smoking pot. Well, I was doing whatever I could. I was taking Benadryl. Like, I was thinking about chopping up Tylenol PM and snorting it. I don't even know if that would do anything. But I was like, whatever could just take the edge off, because I just am so uncomfortable in my skin. I just need to not feel. And so, yeah, she saved my life and took me through all 12 of the steps. And page by page, we read all the stories in the back. Because, it's in the preface, at the end of the preface, it says, that we, I can't say it word for word, but we read all of the stories. And I got to know her really well, and I got to trust her. And what ended up happening was that I ended up having this sponsee that I had who was struggling. She was really young, and there were no young people. And I was young, and I was 31, I think, at the time, and she came in, and she was 22, and she was desperate. She was dying. Like, she was not in good shape. And she had a little girl that she was dragging with her. And took her with me. I dragged her with me, and we worked the steps. I was a week ahead of her, or maybe 2 weeks ahead of her, and she would do exactly what I did the week before with my sponsor. And I met with my sponsor every week and sat with her. And yeah, she saved my life. And sponsoring somebody, like that thing about sponsorship, when we sit knee to knee, when we sit across the table from somebody else that we're carrying the message to, there's no axes to grind, no people to please. No, I'm just trying to be helpful, to this other person. Holy cow. And share my experience of what it was like and what happened and what it's like now. Change the game. Like sponsoring somebody and then seeing them stay sober was like, wow. And then to see them like, I could not see any of that in myself. I still have trouble sometimes. I can't see it in me, but I see it in you guys. And like to see people come in and get their nose to the grindstone and like get into this book and actually be brave enough, because this is not easy. Like this is really hard to show up and do this thing and have their lives change. I'm like, whoa, this is for real. It really works. So I want to jump ahead because this last year I have, how am I, 9:05? We're good? Okay. I've had some stuff that, working the steps and going back through and doing another inventory has been super profound. Like more has been revealed per usual. And things that I thought I understood, I understand now and I can see. First of all, I have not always liked women or felt comfortable with them. And in the last year, I had this sponsee move from Arizona, and her sponsor from Arizona, they used to all get together and they would get together and meet, and have like this women thing. And the sponsees would all get to the lineage thing, as they say in here, like all the lineage would all get together and like share and have like a meeting and work some steps or work on something, read something. And I was like, oh, that would be great. This has been slow for me, this process of being around and being safe with women. I grew up, my mom had a lot of mental health issues, and when I was 14, she was in and out of the mental hospital, which is another reason why I just checked out. I didn't know what to do, actually. My dad had moved to Idaho, and I was on my own. I was kind of by myself. And I would have to go next door to the neighbors, and my relationship with my mom, and God bless her, she lives with me today. She's a lovely human being, and I'm doing the best I can to kind of see about her and take care of her as she gets older, which is a miracle. That is only because of God. But I have some women stuff, and I need to probably go to therapy, honestly, and work on some stuff because, getting close to women, having a wall up. I've always had this big wall up. Don't let people get too close. Don't. And so to have these group of women coming over to my house has been great, and it's also been really hard. And I've had some big resentments, and there was big resentment from having all these women over at my house recently that was on my latest inventory, and there wasn't enough. It was starting to be a wah-wah thing where people were coming and they were sitting at the table and doing a lot of talking about all their problems and not focusing on this right here. And I was like, we just need a little bit of structure. And it was as if I had said, no more crying, no more sharing your deep, dark stuff, only we're going to do this. It was as if I said that, and I didn't say that, but it came across that way, I think, to some of the girls. And I had this thing that came up where I was like, oh my gosh, if people don't agree with me, if they don't agree with me, then I'm not okay. And everybody is allowed to have their feelings and their opinions, and I was able to get through it from working a 4-step on it. And, if I'm rooted in God and I'm staying and I'm working my God muscle, and I'm in it, and my feet are firmly planted in God, and I'm trusting God completely, then it doesn't matter if people don't agree with me. It doesn't matter if, you don't like me or whatever. It's okay. But that was a big lesson, and it made me feel closer to these women because we worked it out. It wasn't that big of a deal. One of the newer girl was like, "Oh, that's no big deal. That's just a simple fix. We're just going to have some structure." And I was like, "Oh, okay. We're just going to read something out of the book." And she was just like, "Bam, we're good." And everybody, it ended up being okay, and we'll see what happens. But I feel safe with them. I feel like I can trust them. And that was I did not ever think that was going to happen. I did not think that I was going to ever be able to let women get close to me and get to know me and feel safe with them. And the women I sponsor, maybe, but everybody else, I'm working on it. It's a work in progress. In that moment, though, I had a thing where one of the girls had sent me a text during that, and she had said, and I had prayed about it, and I talked to my sponsor about it, and I'd done a little 10-step on it, and she had sent me a text message, and she was explaining stuff, and I got a little sassy, and instead of just saying, "Okay, I like your idea, we can talk about it later," or whatever, instead I had this pause that was like, "Don't do it. Don't do it. Abby, don't do it." And I had my phone in my hand, and I was like, literally could hear the voice. You don't need to text her back. You're good. Yeah, do you think I did that? No, I didn't listen to it at all. And I sent a three long text message back of over-explaining and being because I need to be the best. I need to know the most. I'm the one with the most sobriety. What? I got in that space, and yeah, and I did not pause. And it's a great reminder because it reminds me that I didn't used to do that. I never had a pause at all. I just let everything come out, and I did damage. And today I actually have that moment where I'm like, "Oh, don't do it. Don't do it." And I got to make amends, and it ended up being fine. Again, we're all good. The other thing that I wanted to share about that was another realization is that I have a problem with driving, and it's a really big problem. And it's been a really big problem from when I was 16. I would race those boys home from the ski area, and we would literally race in a snowstorm from Loveland ski area to Georgetown, and whoever got there first. And I mean, in a Subaru, and my 1979 Subaru or whatever. And I really like to drive fast. I like to drive fast a lot. And I also have this thing where I get in my bubble when I get in my car, and I actually think that I'm like a warrior. And I'm like, it's bad. I am that person that you all are like, who is this jerk that's who is this guy thinking they're whatever? It's me. It's me. It's me. I'm the one. And one time I had a sponsee in the car, and we were coming home from an assembly, and I rolled down my window, and she, because somebody was riding my tail on Kenosha Pass, and I pulled over to let him pass. I was like, "Look, see, I'm letting him pass." Then rolled down my window and stuck my middle finger out, flipped him the bird, and said not nice stuff. And then looked at her and was like, "Do you still want me to sponsor you?" It's that's way better. I'm way better than I used to be. Okay, but here's the thing. Sometimes I realize that when other people are in the car with me, I do pretty good. I did pretty good on our way here. Did all right. And it definitely shows my spiritual fitness. And when I am in my vehicle, it just shows. I passed you one time. Do you remember that? Coming from Leadville, it was bad. I have so many bad driving experiences of doing things and then realizing that it's somebody that I know. And then I'm like, oh, that was Brad. Or somebody coming home from an assembly, it's awful. And so I was coming home This was a couple months ago, and I was driving with my husband, and he's so nice. He still is he's an angel. Like, he is just the nicest, loveliest human, and not one of us. He's one of those people that can have a half of a drink and leave it on the counter, and that's it. And he just doesn't have a problem at all. And we were in the car, and we were going along, and this guy, it was getting dark, and this person had their brights on, and I could see them, and they kept getting up, because I'm the warrior of the road. I need everyone to drive appropriately, and I'm watching it. I'm seeing, like, this guy coming up on all these other cars, because it's a wide open road, and you can see for miles. So I could see this guy with his brights on going, and he kept riding on people's butts and not letting him get by. Or like, people would like pull over, and he would continue to have his brights on, and I was like, what is this guy doing? And whatever. Well, he got to me, and I was like, okay, and I kind of said a couple sassy things, and my husband was like, Abby, come on, like, well, let's be safe or whatever. And I let him pass me. I pulled over and let him pass me, and then he got in front of me, and I just gunned it, and I was going 90 because he was going 90. I pushed my little old Subaru to 90 and put my brights on, and I rode his butt. My husband looked at me and was like, what are you doing? Like, what are you doing right now? And he was not happy. He was like, first of all, I want to live, and so does everyone else on the road. Like, why do you think, and he said it, he's like, why do you think that you have to be the boss of all vehicles on the road or whatever? Like, what are you doing? I'm like, well, I need to show that person, that man, and it was probably a woman too, like me, that what they're doing wrong, and they're obviously, it was such a moment of clarity for me that I was like, wow, what am I doing? Like, what is this? Like, where did this come from? Why would I think, when I tend to really enjoy people and like people, like, what makes me think that I like to put everybody in danger? Because it's not just me. When you're going 90 and who knows what's going to happen? So I have a lot of work to do, and that is definitely spiritual fitness, because I don't want to do that anymore. It's really, really uncomfortable. I don't want to be that person on the road. I certainly don't want to because at some point, that kind of driving causes accidents, and bad accidents. I could kill someone. And who am I? Who am I to think that what is that? It's so, ugh. I shared that at a meeting, and it was like, it's messy. I guess I have like 10 minutes left. And I feel like I didn't share enough big book stuff, and you guys are probably going to judge me. But what I want to say, I was thinking about it today, is that, like, when I think about being here with you guys, like, when I think about the people that hold space. Like, I remember Stuart one time saying to me when I was heading for the door, because I didn't like what the speaker was doing or saying, and I was like, I'm out of here, this is crap. And I said something to Stuart, and he was like, we're holding space for this person, and I was like, oh, like, she's having a hard time. And I was like, oh, right. You guys are holding space for me tonight. Like, you're holding space for me to share whatever I need to share, and maybe not perfectly. And that was a good reminder. But all of the things that we do, all the people that we come across, I don't know anywhere else that we have that in our society. I don't know anywhere else that we have this place where every single one of you, the longer that you stay sober, like, all of the people and the lives that you're going to affect. Like, because I can sit here and think about so many of you that I know, some of you really well and some of you not as well, that have touched my life and made me feel a part of, and made me feel like I was okay and that I belonged. And honestly, for a girl who got bullied so bad until I learned how to do naughty things with boys, and then they started liking me. You know, like for a girl that got bullied so bad, like I feel a part of. Like I feel like I'm okay here and that I'm safe and that is something else, honestly. And that whole idea of like it's a we program, it's not a me program, even though I would like it to be just about me because I am self-centered and that this is something that I have to work on a daily basis. And I cannot do this by myself. And honestly, I'm not going to get saved by you guys. I have to have God. I have to have God and my feet firmly planted in God or I'm not going to make it. And this selfish thing, like I heard a speaker one time say, you know, we come to AA because we have a drinking problem and we stay in AA because we have a thinking problem. Yeah, like I have a thinking problem and I need God to fix it. I need to not try to fix it myself. I need to stay in my own lane. I need to try to be as helpful as I can on a daily basis, you know? Put my hand out at every meeting that I'm at. Like make sure that the person that's walking in the room feels like they're welcome. That's big. Because somebody did that for me. Some biker chick she was like amazing at this meeting in Phoenix, my first meeting that I ever went to, and she got on the back of this bike and was like, here's my number, you call me, honey. And I was like, oh, you know, like she saw me, she put her hand out, she had the hand of AA was there, you know, and the person that I worked for, her hand was there for me. I want to make sure that my hand is there, you know, always, no matter what. Like every single one of us, like we're all responsible. If we have any kind of sobriety and we're staying sober, like, yeah, we owe it. And if we have this and we get to carry this message to somebody else and help them live a satisfying life where they can just be who they need to be, you know, and be okay with it and just show up and hold their hand and hold space for them, like, what a miracle. Every single person, you know, Brad has been there for me, you know. I saw him when he came in, you know, and what a miracle. Like, I know this thing works because I see it in you guys, you know, and I'm just grateful. I love that we thing. Like, if I want to do it myself, because trust me, I want to do this myself. I want to do it by myself. I don't, you know, in my head, when I go to that place and I'm not around you guys, like kind of during COVID a little bit, it was good that I had sponsees. Had I not had sponsees, I think that could have been a little, you know, talking to them on the phone. I'm glad that I had that because I think when I get away from you, I go right back into that, put the wall up, do it yourself, don't ask for help. You're smarter than everybody else. Well, I don't really think that. I either think that I'm the stupidest person in the room, which is usually it, or I'm, you know, like no more than you, or I'm whatever. I go in that space and it immediately shuts me off from the sunland of the spirit. And I don't want to ever do that. I don't want to do that. And I don't want to kill anybody in my car. I'm really glad to share that out loud with you guys because it's real. Like, that's real. And the stuff that we do when we're asleep, I was talking to my sponsor before we came in here, and like, I was asleep. I don't know about you guys, but I was asleep for years. Like, years. Like, completely no pause, no anything. I was shut off, you know, and that is no way to live. Like, I don't want to ever go back there ever again. And we can. And guess what? You can do it in sobriety. You know, I've done it in sobriety. I've been not a non-drinker and been completely asleep. And so I'm just grateful. I'm so grateful for this program. I don't know where I would be without it. And I'm so grateful for you guys. And I so appreciate, as intimidating as you all are, this is some real stuff. And the girls that we've been coming for a few years from home, some of us, we always say, oh, we're going to get cracked open. I wonder who's going to get cracked open first. You know, like, ooh, get ready to get cracked open. Because, you know, if this is your first time here and you've never been to Fellowship of the Spirit conference, get ready. You know, because inevitably at some point you're going to hear something that's going to change the game for you or make you look at something a little different or make you realize, oh, I got some work to do around that. And what a gift, you know? So can I stop 5 minutes early? Okay. I really love you guys. I don't know all of you, but I love you so much. And what a gift, this fellowship. You know, I just spent 10 days with family or 12 days with family that do not understand this at all. And they do all kinds of crazy things and say all kinds of crazy things when I'm like, I'm going to a meeting, and they're like, are you okay? Or whatever, and like do all kinds of stuff. Or they say the age-old thing like, oh, you're still going to those? You know, or whatever. But like, they have no idea. It's like they have no idea like what this is and what this is about and what a gift this is. I almost said the F word. What a gift this is. Like, this is a gift from God. And I'm so grateful to be here. So thank you so much for letting me share.